The fall of Earth. The sky above Earth burned a fiery red as alien ships descended like shadows of death. The people of Earth had always believed they were alone in the universe, until now. Massive crafts, each larger than a city, hovered silently before releasing devastating beams of light that obliterated entire buildings in seconds. Panic spread faster than the destruction. Cities crumbled, screams filled the air, and the once beautiful planet turned into a battlefield. Commander Ryan Steele stood on the bridge of the ESS Valor, Earth's most advanced starship. His face was grim as he watched the horror unfolding on the planet below through the ship's massive display screens. Around him, his crew scrambled, their voices a mix of fear and determination. Ryan clenched his fists. He had been preparing for wars with other nations, not for an enemy from the stars. "Commander, incoming transmission from Earth Command," said Lieutenant Harper, a young officer with sweat dripping down her brow. Ryan nodded and turned toward the screen. A hologram of General Alvarez, the head of Earth's military, appeared. The general's uniform was scorched, and his face was lined with despair. "Ryan, the situation is worse than we feared. We're losing ground everywhere. The alien weapons are far beyond anything we've seen. Our defenses are failing." Ryan's voice was steady, though his heart raced. "What's the plan, General?" "There's no plan," Alvarez admitted. "You are Earth's last hope. Take the Valor and as many survivors as you can. Escape into deep space. Preserve humanity." Ryan froze. Abandon Earth. The very thought felt like betrayal. "We can't just leave. There must be something we can do." Alvarez shook his head. "We're out of time, Ryan. Get out of here." "That's an order." Before Ryan could respond, the transmission cut off, and the screen went black. A deep silence fell over the bridge. Finally, Ryan turned to his crew. "Prepare for evacuation. We're saving as many as we can." The Valor descended into Earth's atmosphere, skimming the edge of the battlefield. The once thriving cities were now unrecognizable wastelands. Fires raged uncontrollably, and plumes of smoke rose like ghosts of the fallen. As the ship landed on a clearing near New York City, Ryan led his team out to guide survivors aboard. The scene on the ground was chaos. People ran in every direction, some carrying children, others dragging the injured. The roar of alien crafts overhead made every second feel like an eternity. Ryan shouted orders, his voice cutting through the noise. "Get to the ship. Leave everything behind. Just run." Suddenly, a bright beam of light struck nearby, and the ground shook violently. Ryan turned to see an alien walker, a towering machine on spindly legs, advancing toward them. Its glowing weapon charged for another shot. "Commander," Harper yelled, "we need to go now." But Ryan refused to leave anyone behind. "Cover the civilians. Fire at that walker," he ordered. The ship's automated turrets roared to life, sending streams of energy blasts at the mechanical giant. It staggered but didn't fall. Time was running out. Ryan grabbed a young boy who had tripped in the chaos, lifting him into his arms. "We're going to make it, kid," he said, though he wasn't sure if he believed it himself. As the last of the survivors boarded the ship, Ryan gave the signal. "Lift off. Get us out of here." The Valor's engines roared, and the massive ship rose into the air, just as another beam of alien energy scorched the ground where it had been moments before. In orbit, the devastation was even clearer. The alien fleet had surrounded Earth, their ships like black holes against the stars. Ryan stared at the view screen, his heart heavy. He had done everything he could, but it wasn't enough. "Status report," he said quietly. Lieutenant Harper's voice was shaky. "We've got over 3,000 survivors on board. Supplies are limited. The alien fleet is still tracking us." Ryan nodded. "Plot a course for uncharted space. We need to lose them." The Valor's engines surged as the ship prepared for a risky hyperspace jump. On the screen, an alien destroyer locked its weapons onto them. Alarms blared. "They're firing," Harper shouted. The ship shuddered violently as it took a glancing hit. Sparks flew from the consoles, and lights flickered. Ryan gripped the armrest of his chair. Evasive maneuvers. Jump now. The stars outside stretched into streaks of light as the ship entered hyperspace. For a moment, there was silence. Then the crew erupted into relieved cheers. They had escaped, for now. But Ryan couldn't celebrate. He stared out at the endless expanse of stars, knowing their journey was far from over. Earth was gone. Millions were dead, and the enemy was still out there. This is just the beginning, he whispered to himself. Somewhere deep inside, Ryan vowed he would fight until his last breath. Humanity might have lost Earth, but it hadn't lost hope. And as long as there was hope, there was a chance to rise again. The Lost Colony. The ESF Valor drifted through uncharted space, a lone ship carrying the remnants of humanity. The crew was weary, their faces lined with exhaustion and fear. Supplies were dwindling, and food rations had been cut in half. Commander Ryan Steele knew morale was at its breaking point. Every hour brought whispered doubts. How long can we survive? Where can we go? Then, a faint distress signal crackled through the static. "Commander, I've picked up something strange," said Ensign Lee, the ship's communications officer. "It's an old Earth signal. Frequency matches colonies from the mid-22nd century." Ryan frowned. Those colonies were thought to be lost, destroyed by early alien encounters long before the current invasion. "Location?" he asked. "Approximately 12 light-years away, on the edge of the Andromeda Rift," Lee replied. "The signal is weak, but consistent." Ryan glanced at the star map on the main screen. The Andromeda Rift was a dangerous region of space, filled with dense asteroid fields and unpredictable gravitational anomalies. But it was also their first glimmer of hope since leaving Earth. "Set a course," Ryan ordered. "If there's even a chance survivors are out there, we'll find them." The Valor emerged from hyperspace near a desolate gray planet orbiting a dim red star. The surface was barren, its atmosphere barely breathable. Yet the distress signal persisted, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Scans show life signs," said Lieutenant Harper. "Around 100 individuals, clustered near an ancient settlement." Ryan's heart leaped. 100 people. It wasn't much, but it was something. "Prepare a landing party," he said. As the Valor descended, the settlement came into view. It was a collection of crude structures made from scavenged materials, surrounded by towering cliffs that acted as natural barriers. The place looked more like a fortress than a home. When the landing party stepped onto the surface, the air was cold and thin, biting at their skin. The settlement gates creaked open, and figures emerged, thin, scared, and wary. They carried primitive weapons, cobbled together from scrap, and their eyes burned with a mixture of suspicion and fear. A tall man with a wild beard stepped forward, his weapon pointed at Ryan. "Who are you, and why are you here?" "I'm Commander Ryan Steele of the ESS Valor," Ryan said, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "We're survivors from Earth. We picked up your signal." The man's eyes narrowed. "Earth? You mean the homeworld still exists?" Ryan hesitated. "It did, but it's gone now. The aliens destroyed it. We escaped with as many as we could." The man's face darkened, and he lowered his weapon. "Then you're just like us. Refugees." The settlers called themselves the Forgotten Sons, descendants of the original colony sent from Earth generations ago. Their ancestors had survived on this harsh planet by adapting, becoming resourceful and relentless. Over time, they had lost contact with Earth, believing themselves abandoned. But they hadn't just survived. They had changed. Long exposure to the planet's unique environment had altered their biology. Their skin was tougher, their lungs adapted to the thin air, and their reflexes were sharper. They were human, but different. As Ryan toured the settlement, he saw their ingenuity. Wind turbines fashioned from old ship parts, underground farms growing hardy crops, and massive walls reinforced against unknown threats. These people had endured in ways he couldn't imagine. But there was tension. The settlers didn't trust the newcomers. They had lived in isolation for so long that outsiders felt like a threat. At a council meeting that evening, the Forgotten Sons debated whether to ally with the Valor's crew or drive them away. "We have enough problems of our own," said Mara, a fierce woman with piercing gray eyes. "We don't need to share our resources with strangers." Ryan stood and addressed the group. "I understand your hesitation, but we're fighting for the survival of humanity. The aliens that destroyed Earth won't stop. They'll come for you eventually. Alone, none of us stands a chance. Together, we might have hope." The room fell silent. Mara crossed her arms, unconvinced, but others nodded in agreement. Finally, the leader of the settlement, the man who had greeted Ryan, spoke. "We'll help you, but there's something you need to see first." The next morning, the settlers led Ryan and his crew to a cave system hidden within the cliffs. The air grew colder as they descended, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. At the bottom, they entered a massive chamber filled with strange technology, alien structures embedded into the rock. "This was here when we arrived," the leader explained. "It's what's kept us alive all these years. Energy, protection, even food synthesis. It all comes from this." Ryan approached one of the glowing structures, his hand hovering over its surface. "You've been using alien technology." The leader nodded. "We had no choice, but we've also learned its secrets. This isn't just a resource, it's a weapon. If you want our help, you'll need to prove you're willing to use it." Ryan's heart pounded. Humanity had fled from the aliens for too long. Maybe it was time to fight back, but at what cost? As he stared at the alien device, he realized this planet might hold the key to humanity's survival or its destruction. The decision was his to make, and whatever he chose, there was no turning back. The alien spy. The ESS Valor and the Forgotten Sons had formed an uneasy alliance. The alien technology buried in the cliffs was powerful, but its mysteries ran deep. Ryan Steele felt the weight of his decision every moment. By integrating this technology into the ship and settlement defenses, they could gain an advantage. But using alien tools came with risks they didn't fully understand. 2 weeks later, the Valor systems were buzzing with new life. Power grids were stabilized, and weapons had been enhanced with alien upgrades. For the first time in weeks, the crew and settlers began to feel a sliver of hope. But Ryan couldn't shake a strange feeling of unease. "Commander," said Ensign Lee, frowning at her console, "there's been another energy fluctuation in the main systems. This is the third one today." Ryan leaned over her station. "What kind of fluctuation?" "Localized. Minor interruptions in power, barely noticeable, but it's not random. Someone's tampering with our systems." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Run a diagnostic. I want a list of everyone who's accessed critical systems in the last 48 hours. Later that night, Ryan sat in his quarters, going through the logs. On the surface, nothing seemed out of place. Everyone accounted for. No unauthorized entries. And yet, the disturbances continued. He rubbed his temples, frustration growing. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. It was Lieutenant Harper, her face unusually tense. "We've got another problem." "Commander," she said, holding up a small metallic device. "We found this hidden in the engine room. It's alien." Ryan's stomach dropped. "A tracker?" "Worse," Harper said grimly. "It's a transmitter. Someone's been sending signals. Out there." The implications were horrifying. Someone on board the Valor or in the settlement was working for the enemy. The next morning, Ryan called an emergency meeting with his senior crew and the settlement leaders. The room was thick with tension. "We have a spy among us," Ryan began, his voice steady but hard. "Someone has been tampering with our systems and sending signals to the aliens. If we don't find them fast, it could mean the end for all of us." The settlers murmured in alarm. Mara, a skeptical woman from the council, slammed her hand on the table. "You're saying one of your people did this?" "We don't know that," Harper shot back. "It could just as easily be one of yours." The room erupted into arguments. Accusations flew from both sides, old mistrust bubbling to the surface. Ryan raised his hand, silencing the room. "This isn't about blame. This is about survival," he said firmly. "The spy is using our systems against us. That means they're close. We'll conduct interviews and sweep every inch of this ship and settlement. We will find them." As the investigation unfolded, paranoia spread like wildfire. Friends became suspicious of each other, and even Ryan wasn't above scrutiny. Everyone was a suspect, and the spy was a shadow among them. The breakthrough came when Harper noticed something unusual. A settler named Jonas, a quiet man who had been helpful in integrating the alien technology, was spending more time in restricted areas than necessary. Ryan confronted him personally, but Jonas denied everything. "I'm just doing my job, Commander," he said, his eyes unwavering. "You're barking up the wrong tree." But Ryan's instincts told him otherwise. That night, he ordered a covert surveillance team to watch Jonas. At midnight, Jonas slipped into one of the alien-infused engine rooms, carrying a small, strange device. The surveillance team recorded every move as he placed the device near a core reactor. When confronted, Jonas didn't resist. Instead, he smiled, a cold, unnerving expression. "You're too late," Jonas said as they restrained him. "They're already coming." "What do you mean?" Ryan demanded. Jonas didn't answer. Instead, he whispered something in a guttural, alien tongue. A pulse of energy erupted from the device, frying nearby consoles and triggering alarms throughout the ship and settlement. As engineers scrambled to repair the damage, Harper delivered the grim report. "That wasn't just sabotage," she said. "The device sent a massive signal into deep space. It's a beacon." Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. "How long do we have?" Harper hesitated. "Based on the range of the transmission and the speed of alien ships, we're looking at 72 hours. Maybe less." The room fell silent. Jonas had been placed in a secure cell, but he refused to speak further. His strange behavior and cryptic words led to a chilling realization. Jonas wasn't entirely human anymore. The aliens had somehow altered him, making him a sleeper agent. Ryan knew there was no time to waste. "We have 3 days to prepare," he told his crew and the settlers. "We'd fortify this settlement, strengthen our defenses, and get the Valor ready for battle. This is our chance to turn the tide." But in the back of his mind, he knew this fight wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that humanity could stand against a superior enemy. With every passing moment, the countdown to the alien fleet's arrival loomed closer. And somewhere out in the darkness, the enemy was already on its way. The hidden weapon. The alien signal Jonas had sent left the ESS Valor and the settlement on borrowed time. With barely 72 hours to prepare, tension gripped everyone. Ryan Steele's leadership was tested as he divided tasks between reinforcing defenses, readying the ship for battle, and interrogating Jonas. But even as chaos reigned, a glimmer of hope emerged. 36 hours until the alien fleet's arrival. "Commander," said Ensign Lee, her voice breaking the tense silence of the command room. "We've picked up a faint energy signature about 2,000 kilometers from our location. It's massive, buried beneath the surface." Ryan turned sharply to look at her. "Another alien facility." "It's possible," Lee said. "But this one is different. The energy readings are off the charts. It's older, more powerful than anything we've seen." Lieutenant Harper leaned over the console, studying the data. "If it's alien tech, it could be a weapon. Maybe even something we can use against the fleet." Ryan's instincts screamed caution, but desperation overruled. "Assemble a team. We're going down there. If this thing can give us an edge, we have no choice but to take it." The descent into darkness. The exploration team consisted of Ryan, Harper, and 3 of the settlers, including Mara, who insisted on being part of the mission. Armed with advanced weapons and wearing protective suits, they boarded a small shuttle and descended into the planet's shadowy canyon system. The terrain grew stranger as they approached the energy source. The rock formations were laced with glowing blue veins, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. The closer they got, the more oppressive the air became, as though the planet itself was alive and watching. They landed in a cavern, its entrance wide enough to swallow skyscrapers. As they stepped inside, the walls shimmered with alien symbols, their meanings lost to time. A faint hum echoed through the chamber, growing louder as they ventured deeper. "This place feels wrong," Mara muttered, her voice tense. "Like it's been waiting for us." "Focus," Ryan said. "We're here for answers." The heart of the facility. After hours of navigating the labyrinthine tunnels, the team entered a massive central chamber. At its core stood a towering obelisk, glowing with a pale green light. The energy it emitted was overwhelming, and the air around it seemed to vibrate. "What is it?" Harper asked, her voice filled with awe. Ryan approached cautiously. "It looks like a power source." "But for what?" Mara pointed to a control panel at the base of the obelisk, its alien symbols shifting and rearranging as they watched. "Whatever this thing is, it's not just a power source. It's a weapon." Harper scanned the obelisk. "If I'm reading this right, it's capable of releasing an energy pulse strong enough to destroy a fleet, maybe even a planet." The room fell silent. The weapon was humanity's best hope, but it came with a cost. The activation dilemma. Harper examined the controls, her brow furrowed. "The good news, I think I can activate it. The bad news, it requires a direct energy input. It's like a key, but the key is power from a living source." Ryan's face darkened. "You're saying someone has to sacrifice themselves?" "Yes," Harper said quietly. "But it's worse than that. The activation won't just kill the person, it will obliterate their body entirely. There's no coming back from this." The weight of her words sank into the group. Mara broke the silence. "We came here to fight for survival, not to become martyrs." Ryan's jaw tightened. "If we don't use this weapon, there won't be anyone left to fight for." The tension in the chamber was palpable. Ryan knew the decision couldn't be made lightly, but time was running out. "The facility awakens." Before the debate could continue, a low rumble shook the cavern. The obelisk's glow brightened, and alien symbols on the walls began to pulse rhythmically. Harper's console lit up with warnings. "What's happening?" Ryan demanded. Harper's eyes widened. "The facility's systems are waking up. That signal Jonas sent, it didn't just alert the fleet. It triggered this place." The rumbling grew louder as massive doors slid open along the chamber walls. From the shadows emerged alien drones, their sleek forms shimmering with energy. They moved with eerie precision, surrounding the team. "Defensive positions," Ryan shouted, raising his weapon. The team opened fire, their shots ricocheting off the drone's energy shields. Mara took down one drone with a well-placed shot, but more poured in. The chamber became a battleground, the glow of the obelisk casting long shadows. "We're outnumbered," Harper yelled. "We have to retreat." "No," Ryan shouted back, his eyes fixed on the obelisk. "We came here for a weapon, and we're not leaving without it. The sacrifice is decided." As the team fought off the drones, Ryan made a split-second decision. He sprinted toward the obelisk, dodging energy blasts and covering the distance with desperate speed. "Commander, no!" Harper screamed. Ryan reached the control panel and placed his hand on the interface. The symbols shifted, and the obelisk's glow turned crimson. A voice, deep and unearthly, filled the chamber, speaking in an alien language. Harper's console translated. "Sacrifice required. Do you accept?" Ryan hesitated, his hand trembling. But before he could respond, Mara stepped forward, her weapon slung over her shoulder. "Get out of the way, Steele," she said firmly. "What are you doing?" Ryan demanded. Mara smirked, though her eyes betrayed her fear. "I'm not afraid to do what needs to be done. This isn't just your fight. It's ours. Go, Lead your people. I'll finish this. Ryan stared at her, torn between respect and anguish. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, she said, stepping past him. Make sure it's worth it. Mara placed her hand on the obelisk. The crimson glow enveloped her, and the facility trembled as its power surged. The drones froze, their energy dissipating. A low hum built into a deafening roar, and the obelisk began to pulse with unimaginable power. Escape and revelation. Ryan and the team retreated to the shuttle, the ground shaking beneath them. As they took off, the obelisk released a blinding pulse of light, consuming the cavern and everything within it. From the air, they watched as the energy rippled across the planet, carving glowing lines into its surface. The alien facility was gone, but its weapon had been activated. Did it work? Harper asked, her voice trembling. Ryan stared out the window, his expression unreadable. We'll find out soon enough. As they ascended back to the Valor, a warning flashed on the ship's radar. The alien fleet was closing in. But this time, humanity had a weapon of its own. Ryan sat back in his chair, his heart heavy with the cost of their victory. Prepare for battle, he said, his voice steady. We make our stand here. Betrayal in the ranks. The ESS Valor and the settlement had only hours before the alien fleet would arrive. The weapon Mara had sacrificed herself to activate was online, its dormant power thrumming beneath the surface of the planet. For the first time since the fall of Earth, humanity had a fighting chance. But tensions simmered aboard the Valor. Fear twisted into paranoia, and the cracks in their fragile alliance began to show. A fractured alliance. In the Valor's command room, Commander Ryan Steele stood before his senior crew and the leaders of the Forgotten Sons. The holographic display showed the incoming fleet, a storm of alien ships that dwarfed anything humanity had ever faced. This is our moment, Ryan said, his voice steady but commanding. The weapon is ready, and with it we can destroy their fleet, but we must work together. His words were met with murmurs, some of agreement, others of dissent. Mara's absence hung heavy in the room, and her death was a raw wound for the settlers. They had lost their fiercest leader. You expect us to trust you after what happened to Mara, growled Torin, one of the settlers who had been close to her, his scared face twisted with anger. She died because of your planned steal. Why should we follow you now? Ryan met Torin's glare. She made a choice to save all of us. We honor her by finishing what she started. But Torin wasn't convinced. Your crew brought this war to us. You used the alien technology that triggered the fleet's arrival. Maybe it's time the settlers took control. Harper stepped forward, her tone sharp. Without the Valor, none of you would have survived this long. We're not the enemy here. The room erupted into shouting. Ryan slammed his fist on the table, silencing everyone. Enough. The aliens are the enemy. If we don't work together, we all die. But as the meeting broke up, Ryan could feel the fractures widening. Torin and his group were dangerous, and the settlers' trust was slipping away. Sabotage. Later that night, alarms blared throughout the Valor. Ryan rushed to the engineering deck, where smoke billowed from the reactor room. Sparks flew from the consoles as technicians scrambled to contain the damage. What happened? Ryan demanded. It's sabotage, Harper said, her face pale with anger. Someone disabled the cooling system for the reactor. If we hadn't caught it in time, the entire ship could have gone up in flames. Ryan's stomach churned. Was it Torin? We don't know yet, Harper admitted. But whoever did this knew exactly where to hit us. The ship's security logs revealed nothing. Someone had wiped the records. But the timing was no coincidence. The alien fleet was hours away, and the Valor couldn't afford more division. A mutiny brews. In the settlement, Torin gathered his followers. Steele and his crew think they can lead us to victory, but they've already failed. Mara gave her life for that weapon, and they're going to waste it. One of the settlers, a young woman named Lyra, hesitated. What are you saying, Torin? Are you suggesting we take over the ship? Torin's eyes burned with determination. Yes, the valor is the only thing keeping us alive. We can't let Steele and his people ruin this. They've led us to disaster once. They'll do it again. Lyra shifted uneasily. And what about the aliens? They'll be here any moment. That's why we act now, Torin said. We take control of the ship, activate the weapon, and destroy the fleet ourselves. Betrayal unveiled. On the Valor, Ryan paced the bridge. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something worse than the fleet. His instincts proved correct when Harper stormed in. Commander, we've got a situation. Torin and a group of settlers just broke into the armory. They're arming themselves. Ryan's pulse quickened. They're staging a mutiny. The ship's intercom crackled, and Torin's voice filled the halls. People of the Valor, this is Torin. Steele has failed us. He's leading us to destruction. It's time we take matters into our own hands. Join us, and together we'll secure our future. Chaos erupted as settlers and crew members scrambled to choose sides. Some joined Torin, while others stood with Ryan. The corridors of the Valor became battlegrounds, with skirmishes breaking out as mutineers pushed toward the bridge. The fight for control. Ryan and his loyal crew barricaded the bridge, determined to hold their ground. Harper monitored the cameras, her voice tight. They're cutting through the bulkhead. We've got maybe 10 minutes. Ryan checked his weapon, his mind racing. The alien fleet was almost within range, and the weapon still required precise coordination to fire. If the mutineers succeeded, humanity's last hope could be lost. Commander, Harper said quietly, if they breach the bridge, they'll disable the weapon. We need to hold this line. Ryan nodded. We will. The sound of metal cutting filled the air as the mutineers breached the final barrier. Torin led the charge, his rifle raised. Step aside, Steele. Ryan stood his ground. Torin, this isn't the way. We're stronger together. Torin sneered. You've had your chance. Now it's ours. A firefight erupted, the bridge filling with the deafening roar of weapons. Sparks flew, and consoles shattered as Ryan's crew fought back. Torin's forces were well prepared, but Ryan's people had the advantage of position. As the mutiny raged, the ship's alarms screamed louder. The alien fleet had arrived. An uneasy resolution. The mutiny ended abruptly when an alien ship fired a warning shot, its energy beam grazing the planet's surface. The blast rocked the Valor, throwing everyone to the floor. We don't have time for this, Ryan shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. If we don't activate the weapon now, we're all dead. Torin hesitated, his face torn between anger and fear. Finally, he lowered his weapon. Fine, but if you fail, Steele, it's on your head. Ryan nodded, his focus snapping back to the incoming fleet. Harper, get that weapon online. Everyone else, to your stations. We're not done yet. As the crew scrambled to their positions, Ryan stared at the massive alien ships descending toward them. The mutiny had left scars, but they still had a chance. This is it, he said, his voice low but resolute. The fight for humanity starts now. The final stand. The alien fleet arrived in terrifying silence, their massive ships gliding through the void like predators stalking their prey. On the ESS Valor, the crew worked feverishly to prepare for what was certain to be the fight of their lives. The alien weapon beneath the planet's surface, the one Mara had sacrificed herself to activate, was now their last hope. Commander Ryan Steele stood on the bridge, his eyes locked on the tactical display. The alien fleet was enormous, hundreds of ships arranged in a formation that spoke of cold, calculated efficiency. This was no mere attack, it was annihilation. Preparing the weapon. Status on the weapon. Ryan barked, his voice cutting through the tension. Lieutenant Harper, drenched in sweat, was hunched over her console. The energy matrix is still charging. We're at 72%, but it's not stable. If we fire now, the weapon could overload and destroy the planet. And us with it. Ryan gritted his teeth. How long until it's ready? 15 minutes, minimum, Harper replied. We'll need to hold them off until then. Ryan turned to the crew. You heard her. Every second counts. Get those shields up and weapons online. No one gets through. As the crew scrambled to their stations, Ryan glanced at the screen. The alien ships were moving into attack formation. They weren't waiting for an invitation. The first wave. The alien fleet struck without warning. Streams of green plasma bolts rained down on the planet and the Valor, illuminating the darkness of space. The ship's shields flared as they absorbed the impact, but the force of the attack shook the entire vessel. Shields at 65%. Harper called out. We can't take this kind of firepower for long. Ryan clenched his fists. Return fire. Target their lead ships. The Valor's cannons roared to life, sending volleys of energy blasts into the alien formation. One alien frigate exploded in a brilliant burst of light, but two more ships immediately moved to take its place. The enemy was relentless. On the ground, the settlers fought their own battle. Alien drones descended in waves, their sleek forms gliding through the air as they attacked the settlement. Torin, now leading the ground defenses, directed the settlers with brutal efficiency. Hold the line. Torin shouted, firing his rifle at an advancing drone. We're not letting them take this planet. A deadly choice. On the bridge, Harper's console beeped urgently. Commander, we've got a problem. The aliens are deploying a massive ship. It's the size of a city. If it gets into position, it'll destroy the settlement and the weapon before it can fire. Ryan stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. The massive ship was flanked by dozens of smaller vessels, forming an impenetrable wall. Attacking it directly would be suicide. We can't let that happen, Ryan said. He turned to Harper. Is there any way to delay them? Harper hesitated. We could send a strike team aboard one of the alien ships, plant explosives in their command center. It won't stop the fleet, but it might buy us time. Ryan nodded. Assemble a team. I'll lead it myself. Commander, that's insane, Harper protested. You're needed here. Ryan shook his head. If we don't stop that ship, there won't be anything left to command. Harper, you're in charge until I get back. The boarding mission. Ryan and his strike team launched in a small stealth shuttle, weaving through the chaos of the battle. The alien ships loomed like towering monuments, their surfaces smooth and devoid of any visible seams. Approaching the target, said Ensign Lee, who piloted the shuttle. I'll drop you on the hull, but you'll have to find your own way in. The shuttle clamped onto the alien ship's exterior. Ryan and his team exited, their magnetic boots clicking against the surface. Using plasma cutters, they carved an opening into the hull and slipped inside. The interior of the alien ship was eerily silent. Strange, glowing conduits lined the walls, pulsating with energy. The air felt thick, as if the ship itself was alive. Stay sharp, Ryan whispered. We plant the charges and get out. No heroics. As they moved deeper into the ship, they encountered resistance. Alien soldiers, tall, insect-like beings with chitinous armor, emerged from the shadows, their weapons glowing ominously. A firefight erupted, the corridors echoing with the sound of gunfire and alien screeches. A narrow escape. The team reached the command center, a massive chamber filled with holographic displays and alien consoles. Ryan planted the explosives while the others held off the advancing soldiers. Charges set, Ryan said, his voice calm despite the chaos. Let's move. The team retreated the way they came, fighting every step of the way. As they reached the shuttle, Ryan glanced back at the ship. The aliens were scrambling to disarm the explosives, but it was too late. Detonating in 3, 2, 1. The alien ship erupted in a blinding explosion, taking several smaller vessels with it. The Valor's crew cheered as the tactical display showed the massive ship destroyed. The weapon fires. Back on the Valor, the weapon's energy matrix had finally reached full charge. The alien fleet regrouped, their remaining ships converging on the planet for a final assault. "Commander, the weapon is ready," Harper shouted over the din. Ryan, bruised and bloodied from the mission, stepped onto the bridge. "Fire it." The ground beneath the settlement trembled as the weapon unleashed its fury. A brilliant pulse of light shot into space, expanding like a wave. Alien ships caught in its path disintegrated instantly, their hulls vaporized by the sheer energy. The survivors watched in stunned silence as the alien fleet was obliterated. The once overwhelming enemy force was now nothing but debris. A hollow victory. Cheers erupted on the Valor and in the settlement, but Ryan didn't share the celebration. He stared at the holographic display, which showed only silence where the alien fleet had been. "We won," Harper said softly, standing beside him. Ryan nodded, but his face was grim. "This was just a battle. The war isn't over. They'll send more." Harper's expression darkened. "And when they do?" Ryan's voice was steady, but there was an edge of steel in it. "We'll be ready." The screen shifted to show the glowing remnants of the alien weapon beneath the planet. It was their greatest asset, but also their greatest burden. And Ryan knew the cost of using it again could be even higher. Humanity had survived, but at what price? The final stand had ended, but the struggle for survival was far from over. Humanity rising. The battlefield was silent. The alien fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable power, was reduced to scattered debris floating in the void. On the ESS Valor and the settlement below, the survivors stood still, their breaths heavy with exhaustion and disbelief. Humanity had struck a blow against their oppressors, but the victory felt bittersweet. Commander Ryan Steele looked out through the Valor's bridge viewport at the glowing remnants of the alien weapon on the planet's surface. Mara's sacrifice had made this possible. But as the dust settled, the true weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on his shoulders. Picking up the pieces, in the aftermath of the battle, the survivors began the daunting task of rebuilding. The Valor's engineering crew worked tirelessly to repair the ship's battered systems, while the settlers combed through the wreckage of their homes, salvaging what they could. Ryan walked among them, offering a steady hand where it was needed. Torin approached him, his face a mixture of guilt and respect. "I doubted you," Torin admitted, his voice low. "I let my anger blind me. You were right to lead us the way you did." Ryan met Torin's gaze, his tone firm but not unkind. "We've all made mistakes. What matters now is what we do next." Torin nodded. "Mara believed in you. I'll make sure the settlers do too." A mysterious signal. As the survivors regrouped, the Valor sensors picked up a faint signal emanating from the debris field. Ensign Lee, her eyes glued to her console, called out, "Commander, I'm picking up something unusual. It's an alien signal, but it's not like the others." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" "It's not a distress call or a tracking beacon," Lee explained. "It's coordinates. They're being transmitted in a loop." Harper leaned over the console. "Coordinates to where?" Lee hesitated. "A system on the edge of the galaxy. There's no record of it in our star maps." The room fell silent. Harper broke the tension. "It could be a trap. Or a message," Ryan countered. "From someone, or something, that wants us to find it." Torin, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. "After everything we've been through, you want to chase an alien signal into the unknown." Ryan turned to face him. "We didn't just survive this battle to hide in the shadows. If there's a chance to learn more about the aliens, why they attacked, how we can stop them, it's a chance we have to take." A divided decision. The survivors held a council to decide their next move. The settlers, still reeling from the battle, were hesitant to leave the relative safety of the planet. Torin spoke for many of them. "We've lost too much already. We should stay here, build stronger defenses, and prepare for their return." But Ryan's crew saw the signal as an opportunity. Harper argued, "If we stay here, we're just waiting to be attacked again. The signal might lead us to an answer." something we can use to protect ourselves. The debate grew heated, with both sides voicing valid fears and hopes. Finally, Ryan stood and addressed the group. "I won't force anyone to follow me, but I believe this signal is the key to understanding our enemy. I'm taking the valor to investigate. If we find something, we'll return to share it. If we don't," he paused, "then at least we'll have tried." After a tense silence, Torrin stepped forward. "The settlers will stay, but I'll come with you, Steele. If there's even a chance to end this war, I'll take it." The journey begins. The Valor launched from the planet, its engines blazing as it left the settlers behind. Those aboard watched the settlement grow smaller until it was just a speck in the distance. For many, it was the only home they had left. For Ryan, it was a reminder of what they were fighting for. The journey to the coordinates was long and uneventful. The crew settled into a tense rhythm, unsure of what they would find. The signal grew stronger as they approached the system, its looping message almost hypnotic. Dropping out of hyperspace, Lee announced. The stars shifted as the Valor emerged near a massive nebula, its vibrant colors masking the system within. The Forgotten Archive. At the coordinates, they found something astonishing, a colossal structure floating in the heart of the nebula. It was ancient, its surface marked with strange symbols and overgrown with crystalline formations. The ship's sensors couldn't penetrate its hull, and there were no signs of life. "It's a station," Harper said, awe in her voice. "But it's not like anything we've seen before." Ryan made a decision. "Prepare a boarding team. We're going in." The team entered the structure through a gaping breach in its hull. Inside, the air was stale, the corridors dimly lit by a faint blue glow. The walls were inscribed with alien symbols, but some were eerily similar to human language. As they ventured deeper, they found a massive chamber filled with holographic displays. When Ryan approached, the displays activated, revealing images of star systems, battles, and humans. "What is this?" Harper whispered, her eyes wide. A voice echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant. "You are the last, the inheritors of a legacy forgotten." The holograms shifted, showing the aliens that had attacked Earth. The voice continued. "They are not your enemies. They are your creators, and they fear what you will become." The team froze, the implications sinking in. The aliens weren't just invaders. They were the architects of humanity, and their attack was an attempt to control or destroy their creation. A new purpose. The chamber revealed fragments of a story. Eons ago, the aliens had seeded Earth with life as part of an experiment. Humanity's growth and defiance had frightened them, leading to the current war. But the archive also held something more. Blueprints for technology far beyond anything the aliens had used in their assault. Tools for humanity to rise and stand as equals, or as something greater. Ryan stared at the glowing blueprints, his mind racing. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "If we can use this, we won't just survive. We'll thrive." The path forward. The Valor returned to the settlement with the knowledge they had uncovered. The settlers, though initially wary, saw the potential for a brighter future. Torrin, now fully aligned with Ryan's vision, spoke to the crowd. "This isn't the end. It's the beginning. We have a chance to build something new, something stronger than what we lost." Under Ryan's leadership, humanity began to rebuild, not as victims, but as a force determined to rise above their creator's fears. They had been forged in the fires of destruction, and now they stood ready to shape their own destiny. For the first time in months, Ryan allowed himself a small smile. "We're not just survivors anymore," he said to Harper. "We're the architects of our future." Humanity had risen, and their story was far from over.